Hey everybody, welcome to a very special edition of Klaus to the Heart here on YouTube.com. I am Jason Klaus. Thank you so much for joining us. The last half an hour has really been nothing short of a struggle trying to get this thing hooked up and synced and everything like that. But I am very happy to be joined by just a tremendous guy and one of my longtime friends and somebody I have the utmost respect for. And he is actually the host of his own podcast over on Anchor.fm. You can find them. You can find them in the archives right now at Vacant Championship Wrestling. Please welcome Jeff Simmons to the show. Jeff, how are we doing, brother?
Pretty good, Vash. It's good to be on the show, and man, thanks for having me. I mean, I didn't think we were going to get this going, but we got it.
We did. Come hell or high water, we were going to make this happen, right? And originally this was going to be a bonus episode on the podcast, but for whatever reason, the app was not working properly. But we're going to do it through here, and this actually works out better because I can see your beautiful face. So this will be real good, right? Jeff, we are going to do something kind of cool here, man. We are going to dissect, we are going to recap, we are going to break down the WWE SummerSlam pay-per-view, and as of this recording, it ended about, I don't know what, 45 minutes ago.
Yeah,
we have a lot to talk about here, and I don't know how you felt about the show. Overall, I had very high expectations before we get into the actual pay-per-view. This was actually done in the Thunderdome type of arena. It's actually at the Amway Center in Orlando. I'm sure you watched a little bit of SmackDown on Friday night. That was the big official debut of this thing. What is your overall opinion of the Thunderdome?
Bash, I kind of like it, but the thing is, I'm still trying to get used to the whole fans not being there, but actually being there type of thing.
Right.
And, obviously it's kind of worked out for sports, but, with sports entertainment, it's that, as we know, it's a different animal. And I feel like that, these people, I really noticed it tonight more so than SmackDown, because that's the first thing you see with SmackDown and everything. And it's good to see stuff back, it's good to see Pyro back. So it does kind of have that, feel that's starting to kick back normal a little bit.
Right.
But I just think that it's still got a ways to go. But I really, my first impression of the Thunderdome, I kind of like it. I really do.
I'm with you on that. I'm 100% on board with that because it sure beats the hell out of these empty building shows that they were doing at the Performance Center. And even when they had, like the trainees in there playing the role of the fans, I mean, you got a little bit of crowd noise, but as you said, professional wrestling or sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, it really thrives on crowd interaction. And, with the Thunderdome and the video screens and everything like that, it does restore a little bit of the energy in the building. But, like you said, and you could not be more right, we are a long way from any type of normalcy in terms of this pandemic and everything that goes along with it. But I have to give, major props, major kudos to WWE for trying something different to try to get that fan interaction. I mean, as far as you can do at this point, because you're not going to fill an arena, anytime soon. It just isn't going to happen. So I think, for them to think outside the box, and you can see that they kind of took something away from the NBA and Major League Baseball. They've been toying around with these virtual fans going on, and It's weird, but it's better than what we have been used to. And coming into SummerSlam, obviously this was going to be a big thing, the first pay-per-view with this whole, atmosphere. I have to say, after watching, SmackDown and SummerSlam tonight, it certainly had a more of a pay-per-view feel than, say, a WrestleMania.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Yeah. It's, the Performance Center, I think that, because I had a chance to watch TakeOver on Saturday night also, and I think that, the NXT guys they're delivering, but I just think that is kind of, the Performance Center is more suited for them. Like your big two shows, your flagship shows need to be in something like the Thunderdome.
Right.
So I think that, I think WWE really took a gamble with this. But, I think in the long run, I think it's going to pay off because, it's stiff competition right now because Vince is kind of getting, he's getting a little flustered because AEW's been winning the Wednesday night battle.
Sure.
And, he's obviously, you can tell, and he's got to do something, and the wheels are turning with creative and, so I think it was a good idea. I really think it was a good gamble.
I do too. It's like, even if it's small steps, you got to try to resume some sort of normalcy in terms of trying to give professional wrestling fans, WWE fans, what they want. And what they want is to be invested in the product. And they're, with the Performance Center, thank God that they had the Performance Center, or else who knows where the state of the business would be at this point, because you can't go on the road, you can't do live events. And, and that's one thing that the Performance Center allowed them to do. AEW has their own thing going too. And I'll be, fully honest with you, I don't really follow the AEW product except for the highlights that I see or that get sent to me or things of that nature. I've been a lifer in terms of being a WWE fan my whole life, and that's where my loyalty lies, unapologetically, right? But Jeff, let's talk about the show that we just watched. You watched it at your home. I watched it here at mine, and I've got pages of notes here, as I'm sure you do too. Let's talk about the pre-show real quick. Now, when I turned it on, it was about a half an hour before the actual pay-per-view started. But I did catch the pre-show match. The United States Championship was on the line. Apollo Crews was defending against MVP. And, for what it was, I thought it was a good match to kind of to open the festivities. You could tell that Apollo and MVP have a lot of chemistry together because they've been building up this storyline. I'm kind of digging the whole Hurt Business thing. And a lot of people kind of discount MVP because of his age or whatever. But I got to be honest with you, bro. He really put in 100%, I thought.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, Bash, this was MVP's opportunity to work with the younger talent, and I know I'm not the only person that's ever said this, but Apollo Crews is one of the most underrated wrestlers on the roster.
Sure.
And, he is finally getting his due, and I worry, though, that it's kind of too little too late for Apollo as far as WWE goes, because I think that we'll see how it plays out, but I think, they kind of took too long to throw him a bone. And, it's just, you can't do that with talent like that.
Right.
So it's, but yeah, for what it was, I agree. I think it was a great match. As to who was going to win, I think it was a little predictable because of the stipulation. Obviously the Hurt Business was banned from ringside, so that really eliminates the whole outside interference thing. Unless you bring an outside party in or whatever. But So Apollo ends up winning and retaining the title, and pretty good, solid match.
I agree. I mean, there was nothing really special, that stood out in terms of that match, but at the same time, it was the right two guys to kind of set the table for the rest of the actual pay-per-view. Like, I gave the match a C+. It was a decent match. It wasn't both guys were played to their strengths. I thought a good story was told. The commentators did well to explain why these two were feuding with each other. On a sidebar, Jeff, what's your opinion of the new United States Championship, the new belt?
I'm going to be honest. I'm not a big fan.
No.
I'm not really. No, I mean, I think it's a little better than the old one. I really don't like the old one. I am more of a fan of the WCW version of it. I just think it looked more like a belt. This one kind of, I don't know. I mean, to me, the problem with the new one is it kind of looks like something that that you would buy for Austin at Walmart or something. You know what I mean?
That's the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. That's the exact same thing.
But it just, yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, let's talk about the opening of the pay-per-view. WWE's their production team, top notch, right? I mean, nobody can really touch their packages, their openings, all these video segments. That's one of the things that, as a promoter, I really, spend a lot of time looking at, just to see how they put everything together. And they did a phenomenal job, as they usually do, to kind of highlight what we were about to see. We got, it was no surprise, Asuka and Bayley, would open up the actual pay-per-view for the SmackDown Women's title. And, going into this thing, Asuka had 2 opportunities to win championships tonight. And you kind of knew that one way or the other, this was going to be Asuka's night. And I was a little bit surprised that in this opening match that we saw the result that we did, only because they kept hyping how long Bayley's title run has been going. She even had the numbers shaved in the back of her head. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Yeah, but I did see that.
A pretty good opening match. I mean, Asuka is obviously one of the best in-ring performers, man or woman, in WWE, specifically for the SmackDown brand at that time. But Bayley picks up the win. I gave the match a B+.
Yeah, I think I was really impressed by it too. This was one of the highlights of the show for me. I think that I actually, with the ending, the way that the ending was kind of played out, I really I kind of liked it. I liked it. Because it really, the only problem was I think it made the Asuka and Sasha match a little more predictable, and like this is, we already we figure out what's going to happen.
Right.
I think that that's the table for something else, because obviously we'll talk about that later, but we're going to get some other stuff with Bayley and Sasha that people have been kind of longing for a long time, I feel like. And I kind of feel like WWE's finally pulling the trigger on that. But yeah, as far as this match, both of them look good. I think Bayley, with this heel turn that Bayley has had, that first happened, I was very skeptical. But she is just a tremendous heel.
Yeah.
And she's really, they're very annoying. When they come on my TV screen every week, they're very annoying, and that is the idea of a heel. They want to piss you off. They want to, so I really, but I liked it. I would, as far as rating wise, Bash, I would, be right in the B range with you. Absolutely. This was one of the tops. This is a great match.
Totally agree. That match was followed by 3 commercials. Now, you've been a long-time wrestling fan. You've been watching pay-per-views, for years now. And even though, we have the WWE network, and I understand, bills have to be paid in terms of that. But, man, seeing commercials, even though they're WWE related on a pay-per-view, it bugs me. Like, we saw one for Hyundai, and then we saw one for Cricket Wireless. Great, I get it. But, if you want to throw a WWE shop one in there, which is what they did, cool. But I don't want to see anything about a goddamn Hyundai or Cricket Wireless. You know what I mean? I don't care if you got the wrestlers as part of the spot. It's still a commercial. And it just really irks me. That's a sidebar. But we went backstage. We saw a promo with Rey Mysterio and Dominic and Rey's wife. Had to be done. I get it. Then we saw the recap package of Retribution. Now, fast forwarding a little bit, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I fully anticipated some sort of an appearance by Retribution tonight. That did not happen. We didn't even get a flicker of the lights.
No. Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that, honestly, that was a missed opportunity. Huge. I think, because I think they're really hot right now. They're getting this angle going, and that brawl that started off SmackDown was fantastic. I thought it was great. And, for them to not even, as you mentioned, a flicker of the lights or something, they should have been, I really anticipated, a possible thing in the Fiend versus Braun match, possibly, but I just know, I figured something, even subtle, but it was just really, really strange.
Really strange. They dropped the ball. I mean, they had a golden opportunity here, and I'm with you, brother. The way SmackDown started with Fiend and Strowman, and even Vince McMahon was out there at the very start of the whole thing, and then Retribution comes in and, really did a number on the Universal Champion, and you thought, well, going into the pay-per-view that they would have a prominent role. I hate using that word, but it is what it is. It's a tremendously head scratch. It was a head scratcher. Why weren't they involved in some way, shape, or form? Instead, we got what we got, and we'll get to the end of that, later on here. But the actual second match of the pay-per-view, the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, who I'm a big fan of, Montez Ford, in my opinion, is a star of the future. That guy has got it. Tonight they defended the titles against Angel Garza and Andrade. You would think, based on the rivalry that these two teams have built over the last several weeks, I expected more. I'll be honest with you. I don't feel like both teams were firing on the same same cylinders or anything like that. I just felt like it was, there was decent action for a tag team match. It was a pretty common tag team match. Nothing really stood out. Some really good spots in the match. Angelo Dawkins got clocked with that back elbow, and I thought it knocked his lights out there for a second. But, you got your typical hot tag. Ford and Garza came in House of Fire. The Street Profits did pick up the win to retain the titles. I thought maybe there would be some sort of shenanigans going on. We would see Raw Tag Champs. That did not happen. I gave the match a C-.
Just for the simple fact of who's in it, I don't know if I can go lower than a C, Bash, but Because you got 4 great workers that were just having an off night.
Sure.
And unfortunately, it was on SummerSlam, which is, one of the flagship events of the year. And I mean, I really think that it was, a good chance for them to showcase their stuff. But I agree with you. I wasn't really blown away. I kind of anticipated that Garza and Andrade were going to have further dissension with the storyline, and they really didn't do that either.
Right.
Because they've been really plugging that the last few weeks on Raw and everything, and so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I was glad to see the Street Profits retain, and I completely agree with you about Montez Ford, and I think D'Angelo's underrated. So because obviously Montez is the star of the team, but you gotta have big power guy.
Sure. Totally agree. Now, after that match, we saw a backstage promo, or I guess it was supposed to be backstage. They had another ring set up. Obviously, it was pre-taped with Bayley and Sasha Banks, and the promo sucked. I'll be straight up with you. It did. I don't know. There was something about it, and I think it was more of Sasha's part of the promo than it was Bayley's. And a lot of people were real high on Sasha Banks. A couple of years ago, she was one of the big names in the women's evolution and all that. But I don't know, Jeff. It just seems like there's a disconnect of some sort. Like she's she's not wholeheartedly invested. It just came across to me as very forced, very fake. I don't know if it's because of the way the promo was scripted, because that's been a real source of criticism among your common wrestling fans, which obviously you and I would not fit into that category because we've been involved in the business. So we don't look at it through the same pair of eyes as a casual fan does and has never stepped foot as part of a wrestling show in a performer type of role, right? I just felt like it was kind of a crap promo, and I was like, oh man, that one did not go over well. But that leads into the one match on the card that I was not looking forward to: Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Loser leaves WWE. Everybody's heard at this point. All of the drama, all the controversy that went on with Sonya last week with the stalker at her house and all this other stuff. So they tried to incorporate a little bit of realism into it, but at the same time, man, Mandy Rose just does not do it for me as a wrestler. It was a better match than I thought it was going to be, but at the end of the day, it still just was not. For me, it wasn't my cup of tea. I gave the match a D.
Yeah, I would, I'm going to say like a D plus. And I say that now, I don't know if I know you noticed this, Bash, but obviously on the big 4 shows, this is really like the time to showcase like new ring attires. And the first thing I noticed was Mandy's new ring attire. And I was like, man, that is really, I was not a fan. I think really, when we get to it later, a couple other matches, because there was some other ring attires that I really enjoyed. But as far as this match, it kind of seemed like, Mandy was really kind of dominating Sonya in the beginning, really taking out the frustration because, we've seen Sonya cut her hair, and we've seen all the shit that Sonya's put her through and all this stuff. And, they pull out the table early on. But it just wasn't, I don't know, it kind of fell flat, and it really, I wasn't anticipating this. And I kind of know, that obviously they changed this up on the fly because originally this was supposed to be hair versus hair.
Right.
Which, would have gave it that more old school feel. But, you still have that loser leaves town type of feel. So, like, it was, But obviously Sonya, after all the crap, she's got to take some time off. And, so, Mandy ends up winning the match. But, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they kind of threw this one on the card. I know this feud has been brewing for a while, but it just, I don't know. I think it's time for, it was time for it to end, and it ended. So that's,
right.
The
That's
best.
the one good thing about it. We don't have to hear about this crap anymore. We don't have to see it anymore. Move on. Now for me, I'll be straight up with you. I would have preferred to see Sonya win because I think she is criminally underutilized based on her actual skill set, be involved in MMA and all this other stuff. There's no reason why she should not be a perennial contender to any of the women's titles, Raw or SmackDown or even NXT, because she's a legitimate badass. I mean, that's what she is. Then you're going to put, this Barbie doll, and I have never been a Mandy Rose fan. Mandy Rose, she don't do a damn thing for me. Looks wise, performance wise, anything. You know what I mean?
Me. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't. But I agree with you. I mean, you get a shoot fight with Sonya and just about anybody. She's going to kick their ass.
Right.
So it's especially somebody like Mandy Rose. Off the fucking floor. But yeah, it wasn't. I agree with you, Bash. It wasn't doing it for me either.
Yeah. Now the next match did do it for me. It exceeded my expectations, and that was this match between Seth Rollins, who I'm a big fan of, have been for a while, and Dominic, the son of Rey Mysterio. And it's crazy because we're like 15 years removed from when Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio fought at SummerSlam for the custody papers of Dominic. So I know you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward 15 years or whatever, and Dominic is in his very first match on television. Obviously, this was not his first ever professional wrestling match. As if they were trying to build that story, but his first one on a major stage like this, he exceeded my expectations. I thought he did very well. I mean, a hiccup, here or there, but it just really, it solidified how masterful Seth Rollins was, because he was able to really kind of mask any shortcomings that Dominic had. And he was able to work through every hiccup that they encountered. I thought it was a very well done match. And I gave it for all intents and purposes, I gave it a B-. Now, you talked about ring attire. This was the first time I've seen Seth Rollins in pink and black, man. It was kind of an homage to Bret the Hitman Hart. I mean, my son was watching it with me. He's like, wow, he's got Bret Hart color. Yeah, pretty sweet.
Right. Yeah, well, also, the fact that he had the, with the chest piece he came out with, he had the question marks on it with raised, which was his stuff from, I believe, 96, they said Halloween Havoc.
Yeah.
When he wrestled Eddie. Yeah. But, just really cool, and even Dominic's ring attire, I was like, man, I really like this. I think he looked great. And he looked like he was ready for battle, to beat this guy's ass that has been doing all these horrible things to his father, and I think this match has told a great story. This whole storyline, I really don't want him to, run the well dry, but keep the horse while it's going. And I think you got a fast horse right now with this one.
Right.
So,
Seth Rollins picks up the win. I thought that was the smart move because he's the established veteran. Dominic is in his first match, so obviously, I mean, unless there was some sort of screw up at the end. Well, you had Buddy Murphy out there, you had Rey Mysterio out there. Anything could have happened. But Seth picked up the win. I think it was a win that he needed to have to maintain his momentum, because the whole Monday Night Messiah thing is absolutely awesome. And I think, he demonstrated, Seth, I'm talking about Prono, why he is one of the big stars in WWE right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, obviously this is, we'll get to this too, but we can actually talk about this right now if you want, Bash. But the fact that WWE is actually running a pay-per-view a week after SummerSlam, this is strange. This kind of reminds me of, 91 when they did Tuesday in Texas. They did it 3 days after. And so, obviously you're going to have a lot of carryover from SummerSlam. We're going to get a lot of rematches probably. And,
right.
So what do you think about that? I really, I don't really know how to think about it. But.
I didn't realize, I didn't realize until tonight that they were going that route with it, that they were going to do Payback, 1 week removed. And when it finally sank in that that's what they were doing, that's exactly the first thing that came to my mind. Well, this is very, very similar to this Tuesday in Texas pay-per-view that they did in 1991, just a few days removed from the Survivor Series that year. Yep. And it was all built around Hogan and The Undertaker. Right. And, then you had your Savage and Jake the Snake, because they couldn't have it at the Survivor Series, but it was a big money match and that type of thing. But at the same time, the pay-per-view atmosphere, nowadays is nothing like it used to be. The pay-per-views, because there was only 4 of them at the time. It was a bigger deal than it is now. When you have monthly pay-per-views, it just feels like a glorified Raw or a SmackDown or a combination of the two. I kind of would like to have seen a 2 to 3 week buffer between the two shows, so you can marinate on what happened at SummerSlam without it overshadowing Payback. And it's kind of, I don't know, that's just me as a promoter looking at it. That's not how I would have done it, but I also don't run a $1 billion company, so what the shit do I know, right?
Right.
I don't know. It is what it is. Regardless, Jeff, like I said at the top of the show, I've been a lifelong WWE fan. I will support Vince McMahon and the entire crew until my dying day, unless something, seriously runs off the rails. But, if they give it to me, I'm going to watch it, because that's just how I am.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It just kind of caught me off guard, because I'm with you. I didn't realize it until tonight, and I'm like, okay, so next Sunday.
Right. Well, clear my schedule, I guess. That takes us to the second women's championship match. This one would be for the Raw, women's title. Asuka's back out here. She's going one-on-one with Sasha Banks. This match, like you had said earlier, was a little bit more predictable based on what happened with the Asuka-Bayley match that opened up the pay-per-view. It was everything that I thought it was going to be. The ending, the last 2 or 3 minutes of it, I thought were the most entertaining of this particular match, because it was counter after counter, and you could kind of see, they're going to go this route. Oh, no, they're not. They're going to go this route. So there was a little bit of a cliffhanger until the end, and Asuka picks up the win, forces Sasha Banks to tap out, regains the Raw Women's title. I think it's a good idea. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of 2 women having virtually all of the women's titles. I would like to see that kind of spread out, because there's so much talent in the women's division on both shows. And I understand where they were going with it. You know, you wanted to have, you know, this dominant force in the women's, you know, wrestling division. I get that, but I was happy to see Asuka regain the title. I gave the match a C plus overall. Asuka is, you know, she is what she is. She's just one of the absolute best in the world, in my opinion. And the absolute best promo in all of WWE. If she comes out with a microphone in her hand, you have my attention. Even though I don't understand 3/4 of what she's talking about, her passion for what she's saying, I feel like that's legit, you know, and that's, you add that realism into it, I'm going to be more invested into the character.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm kind of on the B- train on this one, Bash. So I'm right there with you, but I think it was a little better. And I say that simply because I think this is one of Sasha's better matches that I've seen in a while. And I'm not by any means a big fan of hers. I never have been, and I probably never will be. But I just don't think that there's just something that, you know, I feel like you were kind of alluding to it earlier, but it's like that whole, you know, long-standing feud she had with Charlotte, you know, everything after that kind of just, you know, it seems like she's kind of been on a downturn. And I know it was a lot of, like, expectations to live up to and everything, you know, because those matches that she had with Charlotte back in, like, 2016 were just fucking amazing.
Right.
They were great. And, I mean, it's just, yeah, but this, like I said, this was one of the better matches that you know, because Asuka allowed her to get all of her stuff in. You know, Sasha was able to hit a lot of stuff, and she looked good. And I think that, you know, this Sasha and Bayley thing that is finally inevitable, especially with the finish of this, you know, and obviously everybody can tell they're going to lose the tag titles at Payback. To whoever, you know, the women's tag team division, I'm sorry, Bash, I'm not trying to sound sexist here, but it's a joke.
Oh, I totally agree.
It's an absolute joke. Because there's no credible women's tag teams really other than the Iconics, Sasha and Bayley. You know, what else you got? You know, you got a couple girls on NXT that you slap together, but if, you know, the idea of creating a tag team, you know, a separate belt, you know, that was the whole idea, is we're going to have an actual division.
Right.
And when it first started, it seemed like it was going that way. But it really, you know, it's just, those belts are kind of used, in my opinion.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Jeff, because like you said, there was all this hope that they were going to do something with the women in the tag team division. I mean, it's not like they're lacking any talent. You know, you just got to invest the time into, you know, putting together a tag team or bringing up a tag team and actually allow them to grow, to flourish, and to become credible. You know, you look, and that's not just for the women. That could be said for the men's divisions too, because tag team wrestling is such a lost art nowadays. I feel like, you know, when I went back and watched the 1990 SummerSlam, and I mean, the opening match was the Rockers against Power and Glory. Power and Glory being Hercules and Paul Roma, who had just been put together. But my God, man, the talent that they had, and they became a major force real quick. Then you had Demolition, you had the Hart Foundation, the Road Warriors came in, the Rougeos. I mean, you go down the line, brother, and you know the tag team division was stacked. It hasn't been like that for quite some time, and it's a lost art in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, you got great teams, you know, but it's still, you know, you got the New Day and you got the Usos, but I agree. I think it's, you know, where did we lose that, you know, that luster of tag team wrestling? You know, I feel like I mean, you can even say like the Attitude Era. There was still a lot of tag teams in the Attitude Era.
Right.
You know, and then we just kind of turned into this ruthless aggression era, and then that's, you know, where things kind of, the wheels started to kind of fall off. And then, you know, now it's not even an important part of the show anymore, and that really frustrates me because I have always been a fan of tag team wrestling, and I always will be. I think it just makes for an interesting dynamic, and you know, I'm not a big fan of multi-man matches, but a tag team match to me is barely a multi-man match. You know, it's got that feel to it, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Yeah, that could be another topic unto itself.
You know? Oh yeah, absolutely.
But from there, Jeff, we saw the WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre, the WWE champion, he was defending the title against Randy Orton. I was really looking forward to this match because I think both guys match up very well with one another. I had a feeling that we were going to see a very good world title match. And it seems like it's been a while since we've been treated to something like that because you know as well as I do, you know, back in the day, everything revolved around the WWE Championship and whoever was holding the title. And seeing Drew McIntyre's journey to right now, winning Royal Rumble, and then you were really anticipating this big showdown with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Yeah, we got the match, but it was inside an empty performance center. It wasn't in front of 80,000 people in Tampa Bay. So I felt really bad for Drew McIntyre that, you know, as talented as he is, as hard of a worker as he is, he wasn't allowed to have that big moment that he truly deserves, in my opinion. With the Thunderdome and having this match with Orton, I was like, man, this is his spot to really solidify himself as the WWE champion and everything that's associated with it. Orton is one of the best of all time. He is what he is. I much prefer him as the bad guy or the heel. He played that role, you know, to a T leading up to SummerSlam, because I don't know about you, I was not excited about another McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler match. So when they brought Orton into the picture and they were going to, you know, this is what the co-main event was going to be for SummerSlam, I was very excited about it because these two, you know, very similar size, very similar styles, but enough of a contrast to where you didn't know what was going to happen. You know, you kind of had an idea, but there was always that element of surprise, especially when they use this "you'll never see it coming" tagline for the entire show. How many times have you heard that referred to the RKO? And I'm like, we could very well see Orton win the championship here. Of course, he didn't. Drew McIntyre picked up a win. It was a surprise way that he won a backslide. When was the last time you seen a backslide end a world title match?
Right. Been a while.
It has been. I mean, I was very pleased with the match. I gave it a B+. You know, it wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better than what I think we would have gotten with McIntyre versus Dolph Ziggler. Yeah,
I think I want to be on it because I think that, you know, it was what it needed to be. I think that it was, you know, Orton is not, he doesn't need the strap. He doesn't need the strap. He doesn't need to solidify himself. He did that years ago. So, you know, for him to just continue on with this, you know, helping out Drew with his legacy, I think, I think they made each other look like $1 million in this match, like without doubt. It's really great, and I think that you know, Randy get busted open there. I think that looked it just added to it.
Sure.
And it was just, because it got brutal there at the, it took a second to really, because it had a real, these two guys are so smooth in the ring at, obviously their matches, they're going to start off at a very slow and methodical pace, but man, they really, when they pick up steam, it's like, look out. And that's what happened here. Because it was, the first couple minutes, it's just like, yeah, we've seen this before. This is, just a normal match. But then you realize who you're watching. Two of the very best.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So it was, yeah, absolutely. I think it was great. And, Drew was able to get the Future Shock in for a near fall, which I've always been a big fan of that move. And I kind of wish he would have kept that as his finisher a long time ago, but I do love the Claymore too. Mm-hmm. It's a fun move, but the Future Shock is just it's always been one of those, favorite moves of mine. But, because sometimes a wrestler, obviously a wrestler has to evolve, and sometimes the finisher has to evolve. So that's kind of, yeah. So I agree with you, Bash. I think it was really good.
Well, that's going to bring us to the last match. Now, the setup for this was good. I mean, they tried to incorporate a real life horror flick into this thing, but put a pro wrestling, twist on it. Braun Strowman, Universal Champion, was defending the title against the Fiend, Bray Wyatt. Now, the Fiend, I have to tell you, in this day and age, is my favorite performer on the show right now. They're my favorite character. How many times, Jeff, are they going to build this guy up and do something to just undermine him? And the first thing that really comes to mind was him dropping the Universal title to Bill fucking Goldberg, which I'm still pissed off about it, because it took him a long time to rebound from that. You built up this Fiend character, unstoppable, right? He was in Hell in a Cell with Rollins, and you couldn't kill the guy. Goldberg comes in, and 5 minutes later, he's winning the Universal title and totally made Bray look like a bitch. So going into this program, I was more optimistic about it because there was a lot of story that between Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. And even, Strowman winning the Universal title at WrestleMania, I was happy to see it. I think it was too little too late, like we had talked about with another circumstance. I think it was with Apollo Crews. It was kind of a little bit too little too late. I kind of feel like if they were going to go this route with them, they probably should have done it a couple of years ago when he was really, starting to get hot. But I dug the whole backstory coming into SummerSlam. They had a big match presentation, a big match feel. It was what I was expecting. Two big guys, kind of like two Rams, going head to head. I got it. I appreciated it. I thought, what Strowman was trying to do, being this monster, really embracing this monster among men gimmick, I thought was a good counterpart to the Fiend. And they did some pretty cool shit in this match. Now, this is where I expected Retribution to show up, especially when Strowman comes in with a box cutter and starts to cut the mat up. I thought, sure, they were going to open up some hole, and you were just going to see these masked guys, come piling out from under the ring. Obviously, that did not happen. I was real happy that Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, regains the Universal title here. I was real happy about that. For that, I gave the match a B. And I was all, yay, the Fiend won, and let's pick up where they dropped the ball with him and let him be the dominant character on SmackDown. Let him be the guy that runs the show.
Yeah.
Then Roman Reigns shows up.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, I understand that this is where the whole "you'll never see it coming" thing. This is what that whole tagline was built around. I get it, but Jiminy Crickets, bro. Fiend finally gets his redemption, and then you have Roman Reigns come in. We have not seen him since late March.
Yep.
And he's going to lay waste to both of them. And I am over the whole Roman Reigns thing. I respect him as a person. I respect him for, he's beaten the leukemia thing. I'm taking nothing away from that. I'm talking strictly from a sports entertainment perspective, as a professional wrestler, as a character. Fucking over it, bro. And why when they have to put somebody over, why does it have to be at Bray Wyatt's expense?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. And I was feeling the same way. I feel, Bash, that Roman Reigns is kind of I feel like we traded Brock Lesnar for Roman Reigns. We just got rid of Brock Lesnar, and nothing against Brock, because Brock's he's done his own in the ring, but I feel the same way personally about those two guys. I think that as good as they are in the ring, I get sick of seeing them just dominating people that should be over.
Right.
And you've got talent that is actual really top caliber talent, and you're just burying them guys, just feeding them. And because there's no doubt that obviously Roman's going to win the title, and they're going to fuck Bray over again.
Yep. I just look. I get it. I understand. He's a big guy. He can move, but Roman Reigns is one of those guys, and I know I'm going to draw heat from some of our friends, some of our co-workers in the wrestling business, and I understand why there's so much stock in Roman Reigns. And I wasn't even mad at him. I wasn't even mad about the fact that he pulled himself out of what was supposed to be the original match at WrestleMania with him and Goldberg. But where you said that you kind of feel like, instead of Brock Lesnar, we have Roman Reigns. I feel like, in the way that I'm looking at it, Roman Reigns has now become the Goldberg of what's happening right now, because they're going to bring him in after we haven't seen him for 6 months or however long it's been, and they're just going to throw him right back on top. And it's going to be at this point Bray Wyatt's expense, after once again that dude has picked himself up and become this major star. I mean, the Fiend gimmick is so over, and I don't know if you paid attention, but when that match was over tonight, and he won the match, he won the title back. If you watched on the video screen, just about every single person, including the sign guy that I seen in one of those screens, which I hadn't seen him in quite some time, everybody was clapping.
Oh, yeah.
There wasn't a whole lot of thumbs down when Bray won. There was a lot of, people who feel the same way that you and I do. This guy is the guy that they need to build SmackDown around. And Roman Reigns comes in all aggressive, using the chairs. So if this is the heel turn that everybody was expecting Roman Reigns, to be a part of, again, I think it's too little, too late, because now you're just going to piss off fans even more, and you're going to piss off Bray Wyatt to the point to where he's going to get tired of all of this stuff, in a shoot, and be looking for his exit from WWE. And that's one guy, in my opinion, they cannot afford to lose.
No, absolutely not. No, I completely agree. I mean, and that's one guy that, Tony Khan will snatch up in a second.
Oh, yeah. in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, but that's, it's kind of, I mean, it was a shock. Let's not take it away that it was a huge shock to me anyway.
Yes.
But it wasn't something that, we haven't seen before. It wasn't something really new and edgy. It's Roman Reigns. It's, I think that, so a couple of things about the main event. I was kind of anticipating that Alexa Bliss was going to get involved. I don't know where they're going with this Sister Abigail thing. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm glad that they, chose her because there was kind of talks of, who was going to be Sister Abigail for a long time. I just don't think somebody like Liv Morgan would have fit the bill. Nothing against her, but, I don't think she has the talent as Alexa Bliss.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a shock, but I really, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I hope we're wrong, Bash. Let's put it that way.
I would not be happier to be wrong in my entire life. I'll be honest with you. I want them to keep the title on Bray and let him have the lengthy title run that he truly deserves, I think. I mean, he's more than earned it. There's as many times as he has reinvented himself and still become a relevant, star. I mean, that guy's merchandise is flying off the shelves.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
I hate to see him become disengaged because of shitty booking. And I hate to sit here and be like an armchair promoter or an armchair booker because I don't work for the company, but this is where it gets hard for me as a promoter to kind of separate the fan from the promoters. Like, why are you doing this to this guy? This guy is a proven draw. He's a proven talent, and the fans are digging it. The fans are loving him. In a time where fans are so disengaged and they're looking for anything to point a finger at as to what's happening that's wrong, Bray Wyatt is one thing that is very, very right now in WWE.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but Jeff, as we wrap this up, brother, overall, what would you give SummerSlam 2020 their final grade?
Overall, I think this was a pretty good show. I don't want to ramble too much, but I really, obviously, leading up to this, I was able to watch some more SummerSlam stuff because I always, when we're going to one of the big 4 pay-per-views, I always like to watch some of the older ones. I know you do too, Bash. I don't think this is by any means in the top tier. Right. But I think, I could, it's teetering for me between the B- C+ range. So I'm gonna go B-. I'll give it a B-. I think it's,
I was gonna say plus overall. There was some good moments on there. There was some not so good, but it was what it was. Again, it all came back to the atmosphere of the entire show. I thought it had a much better atmosphere than WrestleMania did. And that's saying something because we all know as wrestling fans, WrestleMania and all be all of our calendar year. And, with coronavirus and everything that's going on with that, I felt like this felt like a pay-per-view. This felt like a big show. It didn't feel like a glorified Raw or a SmackDown. It was a pay-per-view event. And, take nothing away from the men and women who performed on the show. I thought, they did the best with what they had to deal with. Just some of it came off better than others, just like any other show. Not every show is going to be 5 stars, But I thought, for all intents and purposes, I don't feel like I wasted my time watching it. I guess That's the way I could. If I had to bottom line it, I don't feel like it was a waste of my time.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. It helped that the pay-per-views are 4.5 hours long more.
Right.
And they start at 7:00, so the kid can watch it and everything. But I think, overall, I agree with Bash. I think it was a good, solid show. I'm interested now.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I'm interested to see where they go, with Payback. I think, but
yeah, it's gonna be see what happens this week, leading into next Sunday's pay-per-view. Jesus Christ, it almost feels like it's TNA all over again with the weekly pay-per-view thing. Thank God for the WWE Network, because there's no way if this was the old school way of doing pay-per-views, where you actually had to call your cable company and you were paying $49.99 a pop, there was no way that I would be ordering Payback. And I think that's one of the advantages of the WWE network. You pay your monthly, $9.99 or whatever, and you're getting whatever they're presenting. So, in that aspect, again, I'm a lifer. You present it to me, I'm going to watch it.
Yep, exactly, absolutely.
Well, brother, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know it's late. Geez, I don't even know what time it is now. It's got to be after 11 o'clock, right? But I certainly appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit down with me to dissect this show. And I know you are quite busy right now. You and Eric Cherry, hosts of the very cool Vacant Championship Wrestling Podcast. I know that's been kind of put on hiatus for right now. You got a lot of irons in the fire, as it were. Is there anything you want to talk about real quick? Anything you want to plug? Or do you just want to wait till you get further down the line and then...
Yeah, obviously we talked about it a little bit, but so I'm doing a movie right now, and that is why the podcast is on hiatus, and hopefully we can get things back. But it's a horror anthology, and we're going to be actually starting production about 3 weeks from this Thursday, I believe, or this Tuesday. So it's going to be starting pretty soon. It's we're actually going to title it The Mean Gene. Is the title of it. It is about this demented family and this girl and her demented family, and they kind of go on this killing spree and crazy stuff. But I didn't think of the title. Being a wrestling fan, you would think, oh, you thought of that title, right? The Mean Gene, and but one of my buddies that's working on it. But I actually wrote one of the scripts for it, and I am going to be directing it. Two of the 3 scripts, and then I'm producing the movie too, along with my family. So kind of doing everything on it. So it's taken a lot of my time up. Yeah, super excited about it.
Very cool, very cool, and I can't wait to see as things progress and the final product. Eventually, it's very awesome, man, very awesome, and looking forward to it. And if anybody is going to make this a big deal, it's going to be you, because you are one of the brightest people I've ever known. So it's going to be cool. So,
thanks, brother.
Well, obviously, for those who are watching us here on YouTube, we certainly appreciate you taking time out to sit down with us to watch the show as we recapped this pay-per-view from tonight. As far as my shameless plugs, you can find the Close to the Heart podcast every Tuesday at midnight over on anchor.fm or on Spotify. We have new content that's coming every single week, so we certainly appreciate your support. If you like what we're doing here, hit the subscribe button and get notified each and every time a new episode drops. So for Jeff Simmons, I am Jason Klaus. We thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time right here on Close to the Heart.